What is up, guys? James here from the Light of Riga YouTube channel. And, whew, what a year it's been. 2020, huh? Who saw that coming? Not me. I mean, I don't know what to say about this year. For a lot of us, it was a challenging year. For me personally, I think it was the best year I've ever had, period. By far the best year I've ever had, both for personal reasons, but also for, I don't know. This year was really challenging, and these challenges really forced me to rely on my psychic abilities. I had to use my discernment this year. I had to put it all together. I had to use my logic. I had to use my emotions. I had to use my intuition. And I had to put all those things together to figure out what is going on here. So yes, 2020 was a very challenging year, but for me, it was like a test that I think I passed. And I think a lot of us passed. I think you passed if you're watching this. Some of you, some people did not pass the test, but you know what? That's their mission. They're on a different mission than we are, and they're going to go to their own new school, I guess you would say. So, it's been a different kind of year for every person, but it's really how you approach it that determines the outcome. So what I wanted to do here today is to maybe take a look back on 2020 to see what the lessons were, to see what shadows we faced, to see what we can take into the new year and what to leave behind, that sort of thing. So this spread is just going to give us an idea of what 2020 was all about and what we should take from it, what we should learn from it, and how we can move forward into the future in the best way possible. So I busted out the Llewellyn Tarot, one of my favorite tarot decks. I busted out some natural citrine over here. I also got some anhydro quartz from Pakistan. You're never going to see the anhydro from there. But they're here to help. So let's get into this reading and let's check out what 2020 was all about. So the first card we're going to look at is this one, and it represents the overall lesson of the year for humanity. And we got the Nine of Swords. So let's see what this card is about. Give me a moment. Alright, so the overall lesson here for 2020 is what happens when you're completely in the ego. Well, you get sleepless nights. And I think what this card is saying is that 2020, for a lot of us, was a year where we just relied solely on the ego to get us through. A lot of people would just turn on the news, listen to what the news had to say, believe what the news had to say, and then get fearful. And that fear caused them to make poor decisions. Basically, that's what happened to most people in 2020. And our major lesson, the overall lesson, is we got to step out of the ego. We can't just be a species that uses only its ego. That's not going to work. When you do that, hierarchical systems, I have trouble saying that word, hierarchical systems of the pyramid, develop, right? Where the ones who have more information control the ones who have less information. That's what happens when you live in an ego-based society. And I think 2020 was trying to show us the dangers of that, right? If you allow the governments or those in control to dictate what happens, well, you get things like lockdowns, you get things like masks, you get things like social distancing, right? You get things like a shutdown economy because that's what they wanted. And so the people who are lower on the pyramid don't have all the information, and they just take the word of the people from the top of the pyramid, and it creates a disaster. This is inequality. When we are in that ego-based system, it leads to inequality, it leads to pain, it leads to suffering for all those who are not at the top of the pyramid. So I think that's the overall lesson of 2020 is you got to use your own discernment. You got to use your intuition. You got to feel into things, right? The research you do is equally important as the way you feel about something, which is equally important as the way you intuit something. We have to learn that as a species, as humanity, to be more well-rounded. We can't continue down this ego-based society. It's not going to work. It's just not. Very cool. First card coming out banging. All right, let's go on to this card. This card represents what to take with us into 2021. So what we should take with us. Oh, look at that. By the way, I haven't seen any of these cards yet. We got the Ace of Cups. Give me a moment with this. Oh, yeah, easy. 2020 brought up a lot of new emotions for a lot of different people, for everyone. I think for everyone, new emotions sprang up as a result of this year. And I think what this card is saying is that we need to take those new emotions and we need to understand them. We need to learn from them. We need to accept them because our emotions are the Spirit's way of speaking to us, right? It's the way our higher self talks to us. It's through our emotions. And all these new emotions that came up, some of them were difficult, right? But why did you experience them? What was the core root that caused these emotions? That likely is your shadow. And 2020 brought up a lot of shadow that came in the form of different emotions, and we need to really dive into those. So moving into 2021, allow emotion to become a bigger part of your life, right? It's not just what the media says. It's not just what you hear on social media. It's, discernment is much more than that. And we can't learn that lesson if we're not going to be diving into our own emotional system. There's way more to say about that, but let's keep this reading going. Let's look at this card, which represents what to leave behind for 2021. Right? There's some things we got to drop. And we got the Page of Pentacles. Give me a moment with this card. Wow. Structure. The word I'm getting here is structure. We need to drop the way we've structured society almost. We need to drop how we revolve our entire lives around money. That's something that we don't want to take into New Earth. We don't want to bring that energy with us. The old structures are going to crumble. I don't know if it's going to be this year, next year, or in 10 years, but the old systems of politics, education, health, governments, right? All of those systems are going to crumble. And we need to set our minds to a new way of living, a way that's beneficial for all of us. The win-win, right? We've been trained, we've been programmed to believe that in order for someone to win, another person has to lose. That's the ego mind. That is not true. There is win-win available to us where everyone benefits. And that's something that we need to kind of adopt for 2021. How can we make solutions that benefit the whole, benefit everyone, where no one has to lose? And that starts with destroying the old systems, moving away from the old systems, and figuring out a new way to exist, to govern ourselves, to be humans, basically. Yeah, so the monetary systems has to change drastically. We cannot continue down this road. And I know I'm talking about rapid, or not rapid, I'm talking about huge sweeping change. It's not going to occur all in 2021, but this is the energy that we want to bring with us into the new year. We want to get rid of this idea of the monetary control systems, of the way government works, of the way corporations work. We need to change all of that. All right, so let's take a look at this card, which represents lessons of the mind. These are the lessons of the mind that we should have been, we did learn. I don't know if you learned, but we should have learned in 2020. And we've got the King of Swords here. Give me a moment. Oh, beautiful. The lesson of the mind for many of us is that you are not always right. Period. Okay? No matter how certain you are of something, there's an opposite truth that is also true. And I think what this card is saying is that we need to learn the limitations of the mind. The mind can only get us so far. It's a fantastic tool. It keeps us alive. I'm not knocking the ego. I'm not knocking the mind. It can figure out problems. It's great. But it's limited. It can only get us so far. It can't see beyond 3D. And it can't see paradox, right? The universe is paradox. Two opposite ideas can be simultaneously correct. But if you're going to be in the ego mind, you're not going to be able to see that. You're going to think, I am right and they are wrong. I'm going to fight them. Okay? That's something that we're going to have to leave behind moving forward. And that's the lesson of 2020, is that, we're often wrong. What can I say? I mean, the most right among us are wrong. So, and I hate to use the word wrong, because like I just said, everything is true, everything is accurate. It's just that our ego mind will confuse us and tell us that our way of seeing things is the only way. And that is dangerous. And that's something that 2020 taught us, right? Some people think that there's a deadly virus. Some people think that there's no virus. The reality is probably somewhere in the middle. And it's both of those things, and it's neither of those things. But the mind can't grasp that sort of thing. So the limitations of the mind is what 2020 has brought up, I think, for us. So let's move on here. Lessons of the heart is what this card represents. And we've got the 8 of Wands. Give me a moment with this card. Okay. So the lessons of the heart that 2020 brought up is that things are always moving. There's always constant motion, and things are never static. Things are ever changing. So if you're going to emotionally attach to one thing or one outcome, or just one way of feeling is a better word, one way of feeling, then you're not adapting with the changing times. So I think what this card is saying, that emotions are fluid, literally, right? They are fluid. As far as tarot goes, water represents emotions, and you can't get stuck in one emotion. You have to constantly evolve with the changing times. And if you're going to get stuck in one way of thinking or feeling, especially, then you're going to limit yourself, right? Just as the ego mind is limited, so too can the emotions be limited if you're not willing to adapt, to change, and to experience new emotions, right? Sometimes we get caught up in one emotion. Anyone who's been depressed, like really depressed, can attest to this. Like, there's no amount, once you're in that state, there's no amount of happiness thrown at you that could ever change your depression. And that's dangerous, because we don't want to get locked into one thing, into one feeling, because then we're creating, or we're making decisions based on old information, right? So I know this is kind of a complicated card to explain to you, okay? But I hope I did a good job. Emotions are fluid, emotions are changing, and we can't get stuck in one emotion. And I think 2020 taught us that. Every day there was a new thing in the news, right? Now the virus is mutated, now there's a vaccine, now there's, it's always changing. So we have to change with things emotionally. Okay, let's move on to this one. This is Lessons of the Soul. This is what 2020 taught us from a spiritual perspective. And we've got the 4 of Wands. Of course. I think I know what this card means. Give me a moment. Aha, beautiful. What a card. The message here is that you don't need to leave your house to evolve spiritually. You don't need to go anywhere to evolve spiritually. You can evolve spiritually right where you're sitting right now. A lot of people say, I want to evolve spiritually, so I'm going to go to India and join an ashram, or I'm going to go to Peru and take ayahuasca. I got to go here, I got to go there, I got to see the world to advance spiritually. No, you don't. You need to go inward, okay? Going inward is where you're going to advance spiritually, and you can do that right where you're sitting right now. And I think a lot of us were given that opportunity in 2020 to realize that, right? The lockdowns forced us to sit in our homes and forced us to, some of us avoided it, right? But forced many of us to go inward because we had nothing better to do, okay? And I think that helped a lot of people to evolve spiritually and become more aware of who they were and where they were going. So yeah, I think looking back at these lockdowns, they're probably a really good thing for a lot of people. Spiritual evolution is what this society needs the most, and it kind of forced that onto people. People are so busy with their stupid jobs, they have to go make their money so they can eat, and once that job was taken away, there was no more distraction from spiritual evolution, and that helped a lot of people, I think. So that was a lesson of the soul for 2020, is that you don't need to go anywhere to evolve spiritually. You need to just go inward. That's it. All right, switching gears a little bit. This card represents shadows that we faced. What shadows were really brought up for us in 2020? And we got the 10 of Swords. Give me a moment to dive into this card, though it's probably pretty obvious. Believing the ego. Right? I just talked about how dangerous it is to exist solely in the ego. It causes a lot of problems, okay? And this card is saying that our shadow was that we are so invested in the ego that it will eventually kill us. Like literally. I don't want to upset too many people, but there's no such thing in my reality as the C virus, right? What it was a mental virus. They infected people through fear. And those people with that fear manifested physical problems. So I think that was the biggest shadow, is how is your ego manifesting from a low vibrational place? That's the shadow. Is we're creating based on our egos. Our egos are full of fear. If someone gives us something to be fearful of, we will suck it right up and lick every last drop, okay? Because our egos are addicted to fear. And those in control, those at the top of the hierarchy, at the top of the pyramid, know this. They know that they can control us through fear. And so that's what was done in 2020. And many of us fell into that trap. And that is the shadow. That is the shadow that came up. That's the shadow that continues to be here. And is the shadow that we're going to be working on for a while. Because a lot of people are not ready to see this. They are just not in a position of consciousness to see this yet. And so 2020 was great to bring up this shadow. Because this shadow needed to be looked at. And I hope people will look at it moving forward. Absolutely. All right. The last card we're going to look at is upcoming shadows. How our shadows are going to evolve. A lot of swords here. What shadows we can expect in the future. And what we're going to be working on. The lessons we're going to be working on in the future. Give me a moment. With this card, we got the Three of Swords. Self-worth. This is self-worth. Humanity has been controlled for so long that we've been convinced subconsciously that we're worthless. We've been stripped of our power. We don't know how powerful we are. But that's starting to come out. Our power is starting to come out. The ability of human beings to manifest reality, to create health or disease in their bodies if they choose. You're creating both, whichever one you want. Human psychic ability. We're starting to learn how powerful we truly are. But some people are not going to take that on easily. Okay, so I think in the future, I think a big shadow that's going to come up moving into 2021 is people understanding their self-worth, understanding how powerful they are, stripping the chains off that have been enslaving us for thousands of years. It's not going to come easily or quickly. We're going to have to grow into our power as a society, and that's going to take some growing pains. So our shadow is going to be about understanding who we truly are, what we're truly capable of, and realizing the fact that we don't need masters anymore. The idea of masters is old. It's draconic. I use that word very intentionally. And it's over. That's done. We don't need that anymore. That's what this conjunction on December 21st was all about. It was about moving towards sovereignty. For those on the higher timeline. I don't know. If you chose the lower timeline, you're probably not watching this video, so I'm not really talking to you. But for those of us on the higher timeline, we need to understand who we truly are. And that's what 2021 is going to initiate, is working through this shadow. I'm really impressed with this reading. It came out fantastic. The Llewellyn Tarot never disappoints. I don't think it's ever disappointed me. I love this tarot deck so much. I love this so much, I even got a little protective case for it. It makes it easy to shuffle. Look at this. Now, let me get all the cards. I don't know why I'm showing you this. I love my Llewellyn Tarot. Look at that. That's how easy it is to shuffle with these card things. So if any of you have the Llewellyn, leave a comment and I'll tell you which sleeves these are. I'll link you, because these are so cool. Look how easily you shuffle these. Anyway, I digress. That's the year in review. That's a look back at 2020. It's a crazy time. I understand. Okay, and these lessons they came up very powerfully this year, and we're going to be taking them into 2020 and still learning from them as we move forward. So if you got something out of this reading, leave a comment in the comment section. I really do appreciate that. Let me know how your 2020 went, what you learned from it, and what you expect to learn moving forward. And I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being on the higher timeline, spreading love and light, and and just making this world a better place as we move forward to New Earth. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been a fantastic year of tarot reading. It's been a fantastic year of YouTube. It's been fantastic all around. I can't be happier. The best year of my life. Okay? So that's all I want to say about that. Leave a like if you enjoyed this. Have a great 2021. Happy taroting. Peace.